And so
Yeah,
I think our kale is more tender than maybe some of the ones where people recommend massaging it.
and I'm not saying you shouldn't massage it.
Right,
I just don't even.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that then it makes it so that you can't do it so spontaneously, if I can use that term.
And
It's
my
really
life is pretty
important
spontaneous.
to recognize that most people are pretty busy. And if something takes a lot of time, they don't do it. And if you don't do it, then you don't get the health benefit from it. So it's really good to try to, that's what Janice is really good at, and a couple of my daughters too, at coming up with really simple recipes to do some of this stuff without having to spend much time preparing it.
The other thing, just before the beginning, because we're not going to do the full advertorial, if you have never had the baked goods and other things from Sunizona, you are missing something. I mean, everything you get in a farm box is wonderful, but some people think, no, maybe it's just the baked goods, and everything else are.
I was just going to say, I've seen it on Groupon.
Can you explain the boxes? I don't know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, the girls finished getting ready. I should have brought an actual little box with us, but when you leave, make sure you take a brochure. And what it is we have an online web store, and so you would sign up for the farm box, and then you just go shopping in the web store and you choose, you know, oh, I want one bunch of kale and.
I just saw that.
Yeah, I brought some too. Or, you know, you just choose what you want. And when you go on the web store, make sure that, be attentive to the fact that there's a section that says fruits and veggies, microgreens, the bakery, the kitchen, and then we have a section called, because everything is certified organic. We are a certified organic farm. In addition, we grow veganically, which means that all of our growing practices, we don't use any animal manures, no bone meal, no blood meal, fish meal, feather meal, anything. Because most organic food that you buy is actually grown in these animal manures, and they're very heavy in your antibiotics and hormones and everything. And so we grow veganically, which means there's none of that used. We also have a section on our web store called Fruits and Veggies from Afar. The things in that section we did not grow, and they were not grown here in Arizona, because we do, like, we get organic oranges from up in Phoenix. We get, when it's in season, we get organic apples and peaches and pears from a farm that's just on the other side of town from us. And so we like to feature those, even that they're from Arizona. But the section called Fruits and Veggies from Afar, we want it to be separate because we want you to know that it's not local for those of you that want to only get local food. But we had so many people saying to us, well, you know, we wish you had more fruit. You know, don't you have this? Don't you have that? And so finally we thought, well, you know, for the people who want it, we'll make it available. So our truck goes up to Phoenix twice a week. And so we order it from California, and a truck from California comes to Phoenix. And so we just bring it back that way. So it's a pretty efficient process. But it's in a separate section. But yeah, when you go on the web store, check out all the sections. And the nice thing about the Farm Box program is you don't have to do it every single week. You can put your account on hold. You can do it once a month. You can do it once every 2 months. Every week, you know, it's up to you. And we have pickup locations all through, there's many in Tucson, there's many in Phoenix. And so you would just kind of choose which location was most convenient for you. Go ahead.
I just want to speak as one of their customers. I've been ordering from them for 2 years, and I can't rave enough about it. It tastes so much better than any organic food you buy in any of the grocery stores. It's fresh. I've moved across Tucson, and I had pickup locations, you know, near to where I lived in both places. Their web store is so convenient. It's as slick as Amazon. It is so easy to use. It's so easy to put on. Better for you. Yes. And reasonably priced. I think they're definitely competitive with what's in Whole Foods and Sprouts. So I just really encourage everybody to check them out. I worship you guys. Thank you.
For you, because if we didn't have people to eat the food, then we wouldn't have any fun growing it. And that is the one thing I forgot to mention that you mentioned, is that like for instance, for people who get a box on Tuesday, all the orders have to be in by midnight Sunday night. And then literally first thing Monday morning, these people scurry around the farm, harvesting everything, bunching everything up, and then packing the boxes by afternoon, and then you get it on Tuesday. So it is really fresh. So, and then like if you get a box on Friday, then it has to, the order has to be in by midnight Wednesday night. And so, but you know, if you ever miss your deadline, give us a call or shoot us an email early on Monday morning or Thursday morning, and Angelia or myself will try our best to answer your email fast and fix up your box the way you want it.
And they start at about $22, right, for the small
Yeah,
box?
20, we kind of like 22 to be our minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
And then it's, you know, we literally have had, there's a family in South, not in Tucson or Phoenix, it's kind of in like that Sierra Vista area, and they've got a really big family, and she'll order sometimes like $200 at a time.
Nice.
And literally she's got boxes and boxes stacked up just for her. So your order can be as low as 20 or 22 and as high as whatever you want. So,
With your arms, can you show us what a small box is and what a
okay.
large
So
box
yeah, and we should have brought, oh, we do have one.
Oh, yeah, they're underneath that.
is? Sometimes they're kind of-
Is that it right
And I
there?
saw one of them covered over there.
Okay, okay. So this is the basic small box. Because you don't have to go onto the web store and make your choices. You can just choose what we call a small box, and then that's when we choose what goes in the box. But you very rarely would get something from the bakery. You don't get fruit as often. You mostly get more greens and stuff in what
For
we
the standard
for the
box.
standard boxes.
Right, was big.
And tomatoes and cucumbers.
Oh yeah, tomatoes, cucumbers, and sometimes green beans. The standard boxes, I always say they can tend to be a little bit more boring than when you go on the web store and make all your own fun choices. So yeah, so the small box is about that size. The large, if you got a standard large, it's 2 inches taller. Very same, you know, width and everything. So, does that answer the questions? Okay, now I know you need to let Angelia show you the wonderful cupcakes.
So what did you all think?
Delicious.
And for myself, I never even had red velvet much to speak of, but then when I thought, trying something with beets, the color is so vibrant, and to combine the two in thinking like a beet into a dessert, really? But this is what we're going to show you today, and I'm really happy that you all enjoyed it. You can see it's the first one on the page there. And I'm going to have Samantha just demonstrate how we start off. You can just move it over the tops. And what I've done is just quarter the beets like she's doing there, and then wrap it into foil. That way it actually bakes more quickly instead of putting the folding in. And then actually the color and the nutrients are retained when you bake it rather than boil it. A lot is lost in the water that way. Then you'll want this to bake in the oven. I put there 2 medium beets, which for these ones, I put about shy of a full cup for a recipe, but I would recommend even doing more like a full cup size. And you can see here that after it's, I'll show you, after this bakes, you want it to actually be tender enough so when you stick a knife or a fork into it, it goes through. And then it's really up to you. Once it bakes, it can be fairly easy just to peel the outer part off, but I'm happy to include that too because you actually will take a food processor or a blender and then blend that puree, and there's the juice as it bakes that actually, I wrap mine a few times so that it doesn't leak and spill to the bottom of the oven there, but then I just added enough water depending just to get the consistency to be fairly smooth into a puree and moist like as a puree texture should be. And then yeah, it's about a cup worth, and you may have a little extra for something else that you can do.
And is that's, like you said, that's with the skin?
Yeah, with the skin, or, I would say to leave the skin on, but.
Which is good, because I think then you're getting more nutrition that way.
Exactly. And it's all, the growing environment our beets come from, you don't have to worry. So, yeah. And then, I was starting to say the juice that will actually be in the foil at the bottom, you just add a little bit of water and get that color from as it bleeds out, as it bakes, then you can add that just as you need. So we'll get started here. For step, that kind of goes through step 1 and 2 and then 3. You want that puree, you want to blend it when the beets have cooled somewhat. And then it's up to you if you want to use liners like we did today. It makes it easier that way. And then prepare that. Now, for the milk and lemon, you could just give a squeeze into there, and then we'll mix that up just a bit. And let that set to the side and curdle just a little bit. But then what I start with is the moist ingredients. So starting off with, we'll put into the bowl the, let you open this, coconut oil. And it's really nice when the coconut oil at room temperature is liquid like that. That's what you want. So we can add that right into it. This is the organic cane sugar that we're using for this recipe. And then, just doing another and then adding the vanilla. And as I was doing this recipe, I found as far as the moist ingredients, it's nice to get them all prepared and ready before adding the milk into it, because it's best if it's at room temperature, but the coconut oil, if it's isolated, when you add it to ingredients that are colder, it can automatically solidify. But to mix it up, it works best like we're just doing here. And, okay, then we can actually add this, the beets, and the milk. Look at that brilliant color.
Are you using, which type of milk are you using? Almond or almond?
Yeah.
But it could, if someone wanted to use soy or hemp or
Just
something.
whatever your preference.
Yeah.
But here we are using non-dairy. And then at home, if you have a sifter, what I like to do is actually put the cacao powder through a sifter. And then we have the, actually add this in, the sprouted breads that we have at our bakery. We also have the sprouted grains made into flour that we have available, and it gives a light texture to baking, and I really like to use this.
So the ones that they ate today were made with
Yeah.
that whole horizon
Yeah.
sprouted flour, right?
Can you use powder?
You can. And I tried to doing half and half.
Sprouted flowers, I
Um,
believe they're starting to be available at Whole Foods, but you're gonna have to really look for them. It's kind of a new thing.
It turns out okay.
Yeah.
Corazon is an ancient type of wheat. You may have heard of Canute.
Yeah.
Okay. Kamut is a registered trademark for cortisone. So some particular
Same
individual,
thing.
some particular organization is taking cortisone and branding it as Kamut. But our bakery in Canada, it's our sister company, they used Kamut for a while, but the quality wasn't so they went directly to the farmers and discovered cortisone.
And so we bring it down here from our one in Canada, which is our sister company, and then we sprout it, and then dry it, and then grind it into flour, and it is
Dried at air
available.
temperature.
It's dried at air temperature, it's not a heat, and then it is available on the web store.
You can see here the red, natural red color there. And then the final thing, we just add the aluminum-free baking powder into that. This is Smartford that I'm using. And then it's really up to you. I put there a pinch of salt or a dash of salt, but either way, with or without. And then
Something to know also is those little cupcakes that you ate today, they had been frozen. Angelia made them last week on Thursday, I think, so just so you know, they freeze well. As well as the little coconut, green macaroons or something. Because, you know, you don't always have time to make it right then, so they do freeze well.
I have a question on the
Sure.
beets. You originally said about a cup of beets, but in the recipe it says a half a cup and set aside. So are you using really the full cup, or I'm confused?
you know, you can just put a 1 over that half a cup.
Okay, thank you.
I was making changes as I went, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. Because from 2 medium beets, then determining how much that would be. So I had made it up, and then I was going to edit some things, and thank you there. A full cup gives the color, and you're actually getting more beet into the cupcake. So I'll just go ahead and start scooping these in, and we have a little toaster oven to use. And then if we just clear these things, or you want to do that? They won't stick. You know, it's best to use liners, but for today.
You know how
What if you
about,
let Samantha scoop them and start?
Oh, and then the cacao powder is one from the Via Pura that is one of the pantry or from the kitchen.
Yeah, I think it's from the kitchen on the web store, and it's raw and sort of organic. They make it in Patagonia. It's a little, and their stuff is really yummy.
you know how much calories is in each one of those?
Actually, no. That flour, you're talking like white flour or wheat flour.
I use it just like I would use regular flour. And you know, even when I make cookies and stuff, I try to use the whole grain instead of like a white flour or something. You know, I think when you first made the recipe, you tried it with half unbleached and half that. And then she said, you know, I'm just going to try it with the whole thing. And we liked it just as well with using the complete whole grain. So,
And how does that flour, sprouted flour, in terms of protein, fiber, just compare with other whole grain flours?
Well, I can't tell you the fiber, the protein content is going to be fairly similar to what it would be unsprouted. There is a small change in the protein content as it begins to sprout. But it doesn't change it enough to affect the baking quality from what we've been doing in the bakery. But one of the things that I'd like to point out, most people aren't aware of, is that when you buy flour, regular flour, they take grain, particularly, and bring it in from the field, put it in the big silos, and run it through a cleaning process. And if you look at the cleaning process, it basically is takes out anything big or smaller, etc. But then they run it through a flour mill, and in that growing process and harvesting and transporting process, there's a lot of things that we would rather not talk about that get in there, including pesticides, dirt, and rodent feces, et cetera, et cetera. So what's really interesting is that if you go through the sprouting process, you're actually washing the grain at least twice. And the water, when it initially comes off this sprouted, this grain that has been cleaned, the water is actually black from all the contaminants that are on the grain. And that is one of the reasons why it is believed to be much less sensitive to people when you're eating sprouted. And obviously the sprouting itself makes it easier to digest, but the other thing is that there's a lot of contaminants that are washed off in the sprouting process that aren't getting into your body. You know, you think you're just getting the wheat, but you're also getting some other things that aren't being put on the label, and nobody's intending it to be that way. It's just part of what happens. So there are certainly some distinct advantages of using sprouted flour as opposed to just regular flour.
But they say that even just the corazon itself, aside from all that, they say it's higher protein content, right, sweetheart? Then it's a more, you would please explain.
Where are you going with that?
Well, how it's a better protein content that's better to digest than regular wheat.
It is. There's a lot of stuff there, but we won't go into it.
Yeah, but anyways, it's just really good for you. I'm just going to say that. That answers that.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, perfect.
Who likes macaroons around here?
Yeah.
Have any of you tried the ones that we have available in the farm box?
But the thumbprint cookies are.
I know, yeah, they're delicious.
Well, I work in a bakery as well, there at the farm, and as we can just put this right in. As we were talking about ideas and thinking summer treats with kale and beets, I was making macaroons soon after we were talking about ideas, and I just had this idea, why not make macaroons try like green, like everywhere it's like go green and all of this, and then for your health, the more green the better, so why not try a medley of different colors. And today I'm going to show you actually how we made those. What we'll do is actually measure the liquid ingredients directly into the blender. And you can do
Did you by any chance experiment in this recipe with less maple syrup?
The quantity is a lot of macaroons come from this. I forgot to actually do the count, but everybody likes macaroons around here, so it's almost like 2 full cookie sheets. And there's 3 cups of the shredded coconut, but what I would say, just put that right in, is try it with less, and you could get the moisture level to be just where you want it by even putting a little bit of diluting it with just a little bit of water, and the sweetener wouldn't be quite as much sugar content, even though this is a natural source of sugar.
But you are saying that recipe that's on the sheet made
Made
a full batch.
Yeah.
And it's
A large
that
quantity.
has fed all of you today.
Yeah.
Plus we ate some back.
Yeah. And you'll see,
So if you're only
Yeah,
eating
just to
3
make
at
sure.
once,
with the small
it
scoop,
would be like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I would, I'm like wondering, how
Yeah,
many
no,
calories.
it's a very, so you probably at your home, you might want to cut the recipe in half. Or they froze so well, look how easy,
And with the small size, it's a treat. It's not something you're gonna have like,
Right.
I don't make my macaroons half a cup size or sometimes that you see, but yeah, feel free to adapt it to regular speaking.
Is that the coconut oil that's in that big white
Yes.
thing?
And this is, I'll turn it, there you go, to see. It is organic extra virgin. Okay, we want to blend this. Okay. And then I'll get, okay. So you have these here. Much with kale, the stalk here from the stem, it's just called stripping it when you take it down from the main part and get the tender leaf. This kale is tender anyways, and actually put it right in. We have a
Pusher is
pusher
in the box.
right there. Yep. I like to let this blend until it's all very smooth. I guess you can help me play. That was a large leaf, but feel free to put more in. Okay. So then we'll mix this well, and then with the scoops, can form it then into the macaroons like you had today. And you can see there that another idea is to use a dehydrator if you have one at home. It's nice to dehydrate what you can, or they're baked at low temperature. And these got a bit golden if you want to bring them out right before they get golden, but they'll be well done. And then there's ideas there at the bottom for a cacao spice, and then just leaving it as the vanilla macaroons. So.
Have you made them with the dehydrator yourself?
I haven't, but I've done a lot with the dehydrator, and this time I didn't get to that, but I want to try it myself, so I think I will.
For quite some time, we were doing them dehydrated for our forms, for the ones on the store. And then it was a little bit quicker to bake them in the oven, and so we just sort of switched to that. But they turn out really nicely.
Now, all these products that you're using in the day, can we get those on your farm line?
All the vegetables, yes, and that sprouted
The basic
flour.
part, can you get like the flour and?
Yeah, the flour, the cacao, we don't carry everything, like we don't carry the sugars and, yeah, the
You made your own almond?
How did you do that, just grinding up almonds?
Actually, in the dry blender, it's a smaller blender, but you could use the Vitamix larger one as well. And then I just put about 3/4 of a cup into the blender. Be sure to cover it because they fly. And then let it go, and then actually sift it through a colander. And then it's a consistent size, and put it back, whatever's left, so it's well blended enough. But
It's just almonds, you don't have anything?
just almonds.
with the skins on.
Yes.
So really by midnight tonight, we could order our boxes and go through the
Yeah,
website and place our order tonight by midnight.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You would have to, like, you would have to sign up as a, like, you'd have to sign up
Okay,
and then place your order, but it's a very, you know, it doesn't, it's maybe a 5-minute process.
well, that's what I'm doing tonight.
And if you take one of those little
Amongst
cards,
other things.
they'll have the, it has the website and stuff.
Oh, I got it.
Does anybody need a flyer?
And you can see how well Adriana makes that. And then we'll just come to the side here while Jana shows you what she did for the ice cream.
Okay, so I'm not gonna show you everything about the ice cream because but I'll show you, like, I just won't make it, I'll just tell you about it. Because it's so easy. I chose the easiest recipe for me. Gave all the hard ones to the girls.
She really works to perfection, so she does get credit for all of that.
How many people get a farm box? Oh my God.
Wow, that's great.
That's good.
Oh, that's exciting. We have a whole bunch of locations. The first step in your sign up will be to choose your location, and you just go through and choose whichever one is closest to you or the most convenient. Like, because it's Tuesday or Friday, so depending. And that's another thing. Well, I think you meant, the one lady at the back mentioned it. You could get it, you can switch locations, you know, you don't have to be locked into. I have someone who lives in Casa Grande, and sometimes they pick up their box in Tucson, sometimes they pick it up in Phoenix. They're just sort of always jumping around wherever they're going to be at that time. So it works that way. So basically, this is my best friend in my kitchen. I do not know what I would do without a Vitamix.
Yeah, I thought I was your best friend.
No, you are.
But he's not always in the kitchen.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good answer. But I just think a good blender is such an important tool, you know, for your green smoothies, for everything. And the other thing I wanted to mention that when we made the samples, we tried to err on the side of making things a little bit sweeter than what we might make them, because we figured that most of you were probably pretty health conscious coming here, but we didn't know for sure. And I always feel like when you're first introducing something to someone, you want to make sure they like it, and if like I could handle things, the ice cream, the cupcakes, everything, I could handle it less sweeter myself. But I want it to, so feel free to cut back on these things. And you know, and I think it's just a matter of experimenting, because like when I first saw the kale ice cream recipes, we manage a farm in Michigan as well. It's just a carbon copy of our farm, so we fly there once a month, and we kind of do it long distance. Our son-in-law is our on-site manager, and then our youngest daughter is there as well, and our son-in-law's mom and brother are here today, Kim and David. So we're there once a month. And so one of the ladies that worked there, she was trying to find fun ways to introduce the students, because it's at a school, to eating more, you know, these things like kale and beets. So she saw this recipe, so she had made it. And the original recipe was coconut oil. But I got to thinking, you know, why not use something like this, which is the whole coconut? And I tried it, and it seems to be just as good using this. So basically, I don't even have the recipe here in front of me. So basically, it's so simple. You're just putting all your stuff in the blender. And when I think this isn't the bag of chopped kale that I meant to bring. So this is not 2 cups of chopped kale. But you know, I just kind of chop the kale, take it the way Angelia said, you know, strip it down from the stem, chop it, and when I put it in the measuring cup, you know, you don't want to push it down into the cup. At least, well, depending upon how kale-y you want it to taste. If you don't want it to taste too kale-y, don't push it down. But, you know, it can be rounded a little bit. And, you know, and you don't have to chop it perfectly, just, you know, bounce it in. And then when it comes to the mint, the 4 tablespoons of mint, you could use mint extract. I just think it's fun, since we grow mint, to try and use that. And I didn't chop the mint. I just took it, you know, these are just the whole leaves. I took them off the stem, and I just kind of held them on top of my tablespoon and made it feel like it was a tablespoon, because I figured the Vitamix was going to do all the work for me. So basically, you're just dropping your, you know, your organic tofu, I've got 2 brands here. They're both organic. This one is raw, which I think is pretty cool. But I don't think it's always easy to find these brands. Like, I was in a Whole Foods on Friday, and they only had this one. They didn't have this one. So I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to bring both of them. And there might be other good brands. Like, I know the Viva Pura makes a really nice coconut butter. It has a really nice coconut butter as well. But these are ones you can just find. And we have that coconut butter on our store from
And
Viva
so
Pura.
is that the inside of the coconut,
Yeah.
that white stuff? Is that what that is?
Yeah, and all it is, I mean, literally, I'll read you the ingredients. Organic raw coconut. That's the ingredient, and it's very thick. I mean, you can look at it afterwards. It's very thick. And so, you know, so your package of tofu, the quarter cup of this. I used, in the recipe that you had, I used this because I felt like it had a milder flavor. For myself, I really would prefer, for me at home, to use the coconut sugar because I feel like it's a little bit more natural than this one. But again, I didn't know for sure how your taste buds all were. But the original recipe actually used the organic cane sugar, but I wanted to go a little bit more. So, and in this recipe, it says, you know, half a cup, use more. I did use a little bit more than half a cup in the recipe you tasted. I did half a cup plus 2 tablespoons. But for my taste buds, it was fine without the extra 2 tablespoons. And then your vanilla. And then a little bit of guar gum, and you can get by that at Whole Foods too. You don't have to put the guar gum in. It's just, I think if you're going to refreeze it, which this was refrozen a couple times, you know, it was frozen, and then we brought it here, then we froze it again. The guar gum, I think, tends to make it a bit smoother if you're going to do that refreezing thing. And even if it freezes rock solid, it actually still comes to a nice texture pretty quickly. It never seems to get like super, super, super solid.
Where do you find guar gum?
In Whole Foods. And do you want to know where it was? It was by the seaweed. And I looked all over that store. Because I would have thought, oh no, wait a minute. No, this one wasn't by the seaweed. This was by the seaweed. This was over by the baking section where all the flowers and stuff were. But this was by the seaweed, which struck me as, the only thing I could think was the name sounds Japanese.
That Costco too, that tofu.
The same one? Okay, that's perfect. It's probably in a bigger.
It is, yeah.
Do they have the ethnic brand that does it?
They
had to show me the difference between cocoa and cacao, and that one is with the raw food, the other is with the baking items.
And that's a really good point. Okay, so then after you get it all blended, and you want to blend it super, super smooth, this is one that's, this is what it looks like before it's frozen. It just, you know, kind of looks like a thick kind of whatever. You blend it super smooth, and by the time you get that kale and mint really well blended, it's going to be pretty warm. So put it in the fridge for several hours, or if you're in a hurry, which I usually am, put it in the freezer for maybe an hour and just stir it a couple times while you're doing it. And then once you've done that, then you want to use one of these nice little things with the frozen bowl, and it takes about half an hour. And it makes a nice little noise, and it just thickens up. And then you add your little chocolate chips. I use these ones just because what I really like using is you can get like the raw cacao kind of little nibs and stuff. That's what I really like using. But the ones that I had were kind of big, and I was going to have to chop them all, and I wasn't quite up to that. So I just grabbed a package of these and used these. These are vegan chocolate chips, or you could use carrot chips.
So
and you put this in at the end.
Do you have to have an ice cream maker? Is there
You know,
any way to make it
one of my daughters, she has an ice cream maker, but she's right now where she doesn't have her ice cream maker. And so I was telling her that I figured she could probably do it pretty close by just like putting it in the freezer and then pulling it out every so often and whisking it and just keeping on letting it get up, but she would have to pull it out and whisk it, and then maybe towards the end maybe put it in her food processor. And I think you'd come pretty close by that. I kind of think, I haven't done it, but I kind of think you'd get pretty
You
close.
can make ice cubes with the almond milk, and maybe cut the tofu into like cubes first, and then freeze those things.
Yeah, and do it more like a smoothie.
And do it all in there.
Yeah, I bet you could. The only thing would be, would your kale get blended well? Maybe you should blend your kale first.
First,
and freeze it
yeah.
too. Yeah. And that way, and then it would be a pretty
And
ice
just
cream.
take it right out of the
Yeah.
blender.
And it makes just about the right amount for the bowl in here, which is about 4 cups. And then you just make it and enjoy it. But use your creativity because you might come up with some even better ideas.
What would happen if you used a liquid sweetener like agave? Would that change it?
You know,
or
I
would we-
do use, like, but not in this particular recipe. I definitely have used agave in my other, like, vanilla ones or whatever. I think if you did that, you might want to cut back your soy milk or almond milk a little bit.
Because it's too much.
Because it's a liquid, yeah. Just so it would, so maybe just cut your, cut that back by a, I wouldn't do the full amount back, but just a little bit back.
Yeah.
So that would be my thinking. So, good. Oh, and then while I'm just standing here, I'll just quickly tell you about the golden breakfast parfait. So it's made with the golden beets. And actually, Sarah had this idea. She had said, she had found some kind of thing with golden beets online, but it wasn't really a very healthy recipe. And it just sounded like such a fun idea. And so, so Angelia had thought, well, she could, originally, the one that you see that was red, she was going to do that with the golden. But she made this beautiful golden beet juice.
And then covered it, put it in the fridge, and within just a few hours it turned green. So,
Wow.
And she pulled it out and she was like, it turned green. So, but I had thought, well, golden beets aren't so popular, and so in the middle of, or so well known or whatever, and I thought, man, we need to do something. So in the middle of the night, last night, I woke up, and I thought, well, couldn't we like roast them, and then put them with peaches, because peaches are kind of yellow, and then we could layer it that way. And so that's kind of how that was born. So basically, the important thing is that you want to cube them nice and small, and just put them with a little bit of agave or honey or something to kind of caramelize them. And again, we made it sweeter than what you would have to make it, but it might not have been sweet enough for you. But I would have been fine with it a little bit less sweeter. But we wanted to err on the side of, whatever. And then, so caramelize them, maybe 20 minutes in the oven. And then I don't know, maybe all of you are so smart and you have these little things, but these are such fun little tools to have for chopping your tomatoes or whatever. So we ran the peaches through this with the skins on. And so once you just do your beets, cool them, mix them with the peaches, and stir in a little bit of chia and, your little bit of, if you need a little bit more sweetener, and then just layer it with whatever you're going to do for breakfast. But I thought it was a fun way to get more beets into the salad.
So what is that?
You can buy them at like Bed Bath & Beyond or those kitchen stores. And yes, it has, I think, usually 3 sizes of blades. This is the very smallest one. But, if you're making salsa or anything, it's just so handy.
Well, you're going like this?
Yeah, you put it like this, and you always want to put, like, if you put a peach on it, put the skin side up. And you don't want too big of pieces, otherwise you break this part, and I've broken many of these. Or other people have, you see. Or like when you do a tomato, when you put the tomato on, put the skin side up, because otherwise it turns mushy. And so you put it on, and then you just go like that. But chopping cucumbers, anything, it's really good. This is what the beets look like when I caramelize.
So did you roast the beets whole or chop them up first?
I chopped them.
You chopped
and
them?
Little, choking.
Like running it through that thing first? Or?
I think the beets are too hard to this thing. I'm pretty sure. I've never done stuff that hard.
Okay.
Because these little things break. Like you can see, this one has got it's ready to go. My kids and I have run through a few in our lives, so. But yeah, but again, use your creativity for how to do these things. And Angelia is going to show you the next one.
Actually, Samantha.
Oh, Samantha. Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
We're glad you could come.
Thank you.
And for the brilliant breakfast parfait, we're just going to go over it like Janice has for sake of time and the fact that you all have places to go and things to do, but we're really happy that you came here today, and we so much enjoyed seeing this place here that the Healthy U Network has. It's really a privilege to participate with what they're doing, but I'll let Samantha explain what we did with the chia.
How many of you are familiar with chia?
Okay, so you've used it, you've made the gel. Sometimes have you ever tried making gel with juice? No, okay. So I tried that. I just put chia seeds in some juice. Doesn't work. So to get it nice and jelly like we have in here, we actually let the chia seeds soak overnight in water, and then we mix them with the juice afterwards. So they don't seem to absorb or get jelly-like unless it's just pure water. And I guess you can tell how to mix the juice, yeah?
Here,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
actually
Demonstration.
demonstrate there, that part. Okay.
So you just kind of shake these up. Sometimes they can get clumpy. You want to break up the clump. Or, yeah. But you really don't even have to let them sit overnight. You can just do it, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, depending on how thick you want them.
And I found some just letting sit, like she said, for 15 to 20 minutes, something like that. It does gel up pretty well. So depending on if you are planning ahead for that meal, or if you just want to do it like first thing and then have it ready for breakfast when you're going to eat.
Anybody know what chia seeds are high in? They're just like the flax, yeah. It also helps you feel full.
For the, was it the brilliant breakfast campaign that we used this
Yes.
granola? The granola recipe we included there doesn't contain either kale or beets. it was used to make the parfaits, or we used it in the parfaits. And the granola that was with the more reddish one that you had was granola that we made. And the recipe is there. It's really all up to you, depending on favorites that you have, including different seeds. I really liked adding quinoa, which was a new idea to me, but these ones didn't need to be cooked ahead. You just add it right with the oats and everything else. And coconut, cranberries, dried cranberries, just really depending on what are your favorites to put in. But then that gives you a base recipe to go from. Hemp seeds are also really great.
Where do you get hemp seeds?
You can get them through our pantry on the web store also. Yeah, we source them from Canada. So that's what the sister company, 1 Degree Foods.
And that's hemp hearts?
Yeah.
That's, did I say hemp seeds?
Hemp
Is that the
hearts.
same
Hemp
thing?
hearts.
Hemp hearts.
Yes.
Just the inside of the seed.
But, and again, just the directions there explain how you can make it yourself at home. But that's pretty much an overview of what we have for you today. But,
You know what I love about food demos like this is that it puts the lie to the idea some people have about, gosh, I'd like to do this, but it's really, really complicated. It's going to take a lot more time and everything else. And this stuff is just absolutely delicious, and it's pretty doable for anybody. So, that's what I think is really important to understand. You can have delicious food like this simply.
Yeah, and again, I can't stress it, experiment, think outside the box, try different things. And like even recently, I came home and we were in a hurry, and I didn't have any cucumbers, and I thought, a quick thing would be a cucumber sandwich, and I spied some turnips in my fridge. So I just sliced the turnips, and we had a turnip sandwich instead, and it was amazing. There's just so many fun things that you can do. So we are so thankful you came, and like Angelia said, we just think that your room here is so nice.
Yeah, it's a good space. And the idea behind opening this last November was simply to have a place for people to come in community and to experiment and have some fun. Because we knew that, you bring in speakers, you hear all this, but, how do you do it? So that's the idea, and that's why it's wonderful to have a day like today's, because you can go home and you can do this stuff. Rather than thinking, it's all theoretical and somebody else is going to do it. You can do it. But you can do it as long as you have a farm
juice.
And I have one more thing I just want to tell you really fast. We talked about the beet juice and stuff, and then of course Angelia said that she made the juice for this through a juicer. You know, you can buy some wonderful expensive juicers. This is just a little $89 juicer from Costco, and it just works. And so I guess I'm saying, you know, you don't have to have the biggest and greatest and latest of all these types of equipments. And, you know, and it juices your carrots, your beets, all those things great. It doesn't do as well on any of these types of juicers don't do as well on things like kale. They tend to kind of spit the kale out whole at this end. But I figured out a new trick that maybe all of you knew, but I thought it was such, for me it was a great revelation. I do my carrots and my beets and my hard things through here, and then I just pour my juice into here, and then just run my kale in it, and you can hardly tell that you actually blended the whole kale. So you're getting all the fiber and everything with the kale, and it still ends up being quite smooth and quite clear. I usually don't, like if I make a green smoothie, I put stems and all in. But when I'm trying to make it more like a juice, I do strip the stem down. But I was just really glad, because I always felt sad when the kale spat out the other end and didn't juice as well as how the carrots and beets juice so well. So yeah, that's just a little idea. But we're so glad you all came.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kale chips, Angelia, you have made many kale chips, so please tell them.
They're really fun. What you can do online, there's lots of different ideas on sauces you can use. You can season it how you like. We've used cashew-based before, and then sunflower seeds you can do. Then adding different seasonings like onion powder. Just really up to you on that line. I like yeast flakes as well, nutritional yeast flakes. There's a good flavor with those. And then what you actually want to do is, again, strip the kale, and then it can be pretty messy, but immerse the kale into the sauce that you make. And then I've seen where people do it in the oven at a low temperature, but when you have a dehydrator, that really is the best for that. And then
I think it makes such crispness. In the oven, sometimes they're not quite.
Maybe it burns slightly, because some ovens, their minimum temperature varies of what you can actually do. But they're a lot of fun. And we had them just, I guess, seasonally. We have kale chips available on the store. So yeah, with that, I think the time frame is like at least 8 hours. Just watch in the dehydrator at what temperature it is, but you could see the dial on your dehydrator for that.
What's the value of a dehydrator over the oven?
It doesn't go to the heat. I don't know. It's more closer to what raw would be when you use the dehydrator.
And I think they're more so precise.
Ovens don't have very good temperature control,
Yeah.
especially when you get down to that end. So if you're wanting to reduce the loss of enzymes, you're going to be able to control that temperature more precisely.
Yeah, you're going to keep it at 112 or below, and yeah, it's closer to raw, and you really don't lose anything, except what you do lose in a dehydrator
It's moisture.
is all the moisture, which helps create this sense of satiety, the fullness. So, if Jeff Milbrick were here, he would say, that's fine, but be careful to watch calorie density, because as you get rid of the water, it would take much more of the calorie dense dehydrated to give you the same feeling. But that's not good or bad, that's just a huge difference.
Yeah, but I think with everything, the key is having that variety in your diet. If you're eating your kale chips, and then as well you're crunching on your juicy apples, fresh apples, and your juicy peaches. And I want to mention, this is not what you should make your main courses of. As healthy as this might be, you need to be eating mostly your kale in this form, not in the form of all these other fun little treats. We just wanted to show you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, these are treats and all, but what Janice just said, if you're eating a wide variety of this stuff, whether you dehydrate it or you don't, whether you juice it or you know, it's really not gonna matter. I mean, if you're eating this whole big
Exactly.
rainbow of stuff, and it's called food, not processed, you're gonna be fine. There's no magic.
The only other benefit I think too with the dehydrator is I think they circulate the air better than what your oven would, because they have special fans and stuff. So
Can you use
get,
a confectioner's oven?
probably, you just
And
may
again,
have trouble getting that low temperature.
Yeah.
And with this too, what we just did is ran the beets through here. But go ahead and if you want to have beets with some fruits, apples or whatnot, you can try different veggies too with the mixing the chia for
I
your
think carrot would be good. Have an orange breakfast
Do
Change
you
it
have
up.
any recommendations on an affordable dehydrator? It's like, I don't know anything about buying them, so.
Excalibur, I have 2 of them.
Excalibur is sort of the gold standard.
And I have 2 of them. I know they're coming out with a new one, but Sedona, and I tried that one, but the Excalibur, you can get for $175, you know, and the 9 tray, so.
And they're cheaper than Sedona's.
Oh, yeah, Sedona, they're real.
Is Sedona another brand?
Yeah, they're a new brand out.
What do you think of the Sedona compared to the Excalibur since you've used it?
I like the Sedona.
But it costs more money.
You want one with a timer though.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, I like the
Put it in when you
timer.
go to bed, you know.
Yeah. So does the timer then automatically turn it off?
It will, but I have 2 of them. My next door neighbor has none with the timer, and she loves hers too.
Yeah.
And they are cheaper without the timer.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
That's true.
Doesn't matter what
I have a question on, you say they're dropped off someplace now. It must be a business that it's dropped off.
Yeah, it's, a lot of the places are like, I don't know what side of Tucson you're on.
Right around here.
Right around here, but where is it? I don't know where we are. Well, Whole Foods. Yeah, Whole Foods is the closest place. It's every Tuesday and every Friday there.
There are Beyond Breads.
Yeah, Beyond Bread.
Beyond Bread.
Beyond Breads are only on Tuesday. And then we're in other little, like Renee's Organic Oven, Hart, but then some way up on the north side. that you
So
wouldn't
those
see.
businesses keep it on the side.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are a
And
couple
there's-
of yoga studios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it comes, it has your name on it.
Yep, it has, in this, oh, there, it's right up at the end, on top of the oven, right? I got it. So your name is, oh, literally, this is somebody's box that canceled at the last minute. Your name is just on a sticker like that on the end. And so some of the places, like if you go to Whole Foods, you have to ask, like at the front desk, say, please, you know, I'm so-and-so, I'm here for my farm box, and they'll send someone to get it. But some of the other places, like little yoga studios or places like that, they'll just kind of have them stacked against, and you just go find your box. It just depends. There's different rules for different places. Just kind of what works for them. And we really appreciate the places that are the locations to partner with us to provide it to you like this.
I have one question regarding some of the bakery items. What's the salt content like in your pizza crust or breads?
You know, we try to be really, in my estimation, I think it's pretty, I don't think it's excessive. You know, we like to put in some, obviously, so that it's kind of a happy medium for people. Angelia, do you know exact amounts per recipe or salt content? I mean,
Like if you know you saw the percentage, like
Yeah,
per milligram.
you know,
Calculated it per loaf, and I think it was, or sorry, per loaf and then down to per slice. Are you talking about bread?
I don't, yeah.
Well,
Do-
I tried the pizza crust and I was actually wondering about that.
Oh, okay. I would have to calculate that, but per slice of bread, I think it was 110 milligrams. So that's like factoring it down.
I mean, I've certainly tasted saltier baked goods in my life, but you know, we try and sort of find a medium where people will enjoy it. And then don't feel like you have to keep staying, but if people keep having questions, we're fine too. And then
Yeah, if there are individual questions, we'll be here for a little while, but don't want the rest of you to feel you can't
Yeah.
get part